A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May we request you all to kindly settle down as we're about to restart with our event. Of course, we're on the day 2 and we've had some invigorating discussions all this while, and I'm sure this particular discussion is going to add a lot of value to all the ones who are in the room and to all the ones who are watching us live. So with that, let me just quickly call upon our panelists and of course our moderator. We're talking about empowering women for women-led growth in India's Viksit Bharat. A lot of our leaders, even in the inaugural ceremony, did speak about how important it is to build up the women equity in our Indian economy and how that is going to directly impact the growth of our country. So we're glad that this topic is on the core highlight post-lunch. With that, I'd first like to re-invite on the stage Dr. Asha Bhandarkar, Advisor HR, T-Hub Former Dean and Distinguished Professor Org Behavior, IMI, Delhi. Let's give it a warmer round of applause as we re-welcome her. Of course, it's always an honor, ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause as we invite. Also, since the other speakers who've joined us are new to the audience, so allow me an opportunity to talk about them for a minute. Prabir Roy, co-founder, Paymate Director, Allies Capital India, Independent Director, Nazara Technology. Prabir is a serial entrepreneur with 3 previous companies in digital internet space under his belt. He's associated with 2 unicorns and 1 soonicorn, which is of course going to be a unicorn soon. He co-founded Paymate and also certified independent director at Nazara Technologies. Hi, Prabir. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I couldn't attend in person. I was scheduled to come into Bombay today, but had to reschedule my program.
But thank you so much.
Glad to be there, meet all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prabir. Of course, we'll soon get Dr. Asha to communicate with you since she's the moderator of your conversation. Thank you, Mr. Roy. Let's quickly call upon Amrita Chaudhary, CEO and co-founder. If I can get the pronunciation right, ma'am, it's Gaia Smart Cities. The co-founder and CEO of Gaia, an information and analytics SaaS company providing deep learning solutions and digital transformation advisory for not just the cities, government, as well as enterprises. She also serves as an independent non-executive director on public listed boards for companies like Nesco, Mahindra, Lifespace Developers, and ZF Commercial Vehicle Control Systems India, and of course a lot more. Let's give it a warm round of applause. We also have Lohita Sujit, Senior Director, Copyright and Digital Economy Motion Picture Association, who couldn't join us. So just for the interest of our audience, we had to mention her designation and name and just inform you that she couldn't join us because of the prior commitments. But we'd like to thank her for her support so far. Okay, perfect. Her flight from Hong Kong got delayed, so apologies on her behalf. Karen Shaiva, Chief Impact Officer, MD, Idobro Impact Solutions, is with us, an academician by heart, designed different models and frameworks, now compiled in the Koru Toolkit for Systems Innovation and Value Co-Creation. Her integrated approach also was awarded the Most Inspiring Social Enterprise Plan as one of the key developments what she has been able to garner. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We also have Aparna P. Randive, who's the founder, Practical Magic Business and Leadership Consulting, CEO, coach, strategic advisor for high growth companies, executive search, leadership development expert, expat culture coach, mentor at London Business School, as well as TCS. Indeed, an honor to have her on board. And we'd also like to call upon somebody who's going to give us the law side of things. So why not have the founder and managing attorney, SK Law Suites. We've got Shobna Komal, who's taken out her valuable time. Let's give her a warm round of applause as we welcome her on board and welcome her on the panel. With that, Dr. Asha, I don't want to take much of time from your curation. Over to you.
How much time are you giving us? Oh my God. I have it all with me. Thank you. Thank you. Because you killed us in the last one. So Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming after that lunch. I think it was quite lovely. Um, Before I proceed and we get into the discussion, what I would like to do is to give a few statistics to justify some kind of a business case of why we need to empower more women and why we need more women in the workforce. And it's directly uh, connected with Viksit Bharat and the aims and objectives of making this country into a um, take the country to the next level. So first is, and this is quite, surprising maybe, that there is actually a drop in the number of women in the workforce, only 21% as of 2018. And if you look at the global statistics, in fact, India has one of the lowest number of women in the workforce. So that's a big concern globally. And third statistic which I came across, India needs 145 million women to join the workforce by 2047 to become a 30 trillion economy. So you can say that we are not talking about women getting into the workforce because it's a nice thing to do, not because somebody is doing you a favor, but because it is an economic imperative and something which is going to really help the nation. So after having said this, I would like to go forward and next. Yeah. So I think what I talked about was actually the business case for women in the workforce. And now our panelists, each one has chosen some topic to speak on. But before I ask them about that, maybe an initial sharing of some of your thoughts on this entire topic of empowering women in the workforce. Would you like to start? Just initial 2-3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I think absolutely, it begins with ownership and equity, into, being a participant in this journey. So it starts with each one of us of, trying to be there, fully present, and ensuring that in our ecosystem, when we are there as employers or senior leaders, we are actually ensuring that the women in our ecosystem are also participating as fully and equally as possible. There are many elements to it, there is the element of participation, there is the element of pay, there is the element of safety and security, at in transit and at work. So there are many elements to look for. And it's a problem which requires not just the woman, but it also requires the family and the country and some policy level changes. I think in all of these, my personal belief is that policy is ahead of actual implementation and actual participation. So now we need to actually piggyback on the policy framework that has been created and do a lot more.
Thank you for the initial thoughts. Prabir is at the back of 4 of you. It's a very interesting situation. So maybe I should ask Prabir is looking. Yes, Prabir ji, over to you for a couple of minutes, your initial thoughts. What should I unmute?
Thank you, everyone, and I'm glad to be on a panel, and I'm glad you guys invited the only guy on the all-women panel. So I guess it'd be good if there were 50% men and women, even if it's to do with women leadership, because men, as Amrita mentioned, the significant other has a very important role in ensuring that there's some kind of gender equality as we go forward. Yes, I must thank Dr. Narendra and NQ for really building a platform of women leaders. We have been trying to do that over the last 2 or 3 years. A, get more women-oriented subjects. B, get more women participants, delegates, and panelists. C, ensure that all these award functions are not biased to only male members and male awardees. And in our jury selections, we really ensure that some award categories, only women are considered, and we go out of our way to pick them, obviously on merit, not because we're doing anyone a favor. But as I see it, sometimes, there is a bit of old boys club works, and we need to just ensure that everybody gets a fair shot at anything to do with being rewarded or recognized. And I'm happy that Doctor and NCube and you guys there today are able to do that. Just a few stats from where I am in this part of the world. I had an opportunity to be with the Gates Foundation last evening, and we were just discussing broadly about the role of women. So I believe the Fortune 500 companies have a workforce where only 25% are women. It should be 50%. And only 1% of women hold senior positions in the Fortune 500 companies. If there has to be gender equality, it's going to take 135 years for that to happen. And lastly, if there is gender equality, the estimates say that that will add $28 trillion to world GDP. So that's the level of productivity and value added that we can get if we ensure a more equitable distribution of women in the workforce. So, especially in places like this, there is a lot of focus on women and the platform for them. But it seems to be clearly loaded not in favor of them. So, in some ways, I feel that the role of women in India is much more than what I'm seeing in the West. And this is going to be sounding ironical or contrarian, but this is my assessment. And I was speaking to a couple of ladies, and they were cribbing to me in private that they're not getting the same opportunities. And I told them in India, in the financial services, in media, in airlines, in hospitality, in corporate sector, there is a fair distribution of women in the workforce. And women leadership in India, in all these sectors, and maybe more so, are fairly well represented. Obviously, you have miles to go, but I see a better picture for Indian women in India in professional services than I do get a sense from what I'm seeing here. I could be wrong, but that's one point I want to make. And secondly is that I run a program in London called Nebula, which we work with the Lord Mayor of London to ensure that meritorious women in London get an equal shot at the corner office. So it's a mentoring and coaching program. Every year we select 10 or 12 women, and they're put through mentorship. And then through the network, we try to ensure that they get a fair shot at senior positions, which I believe in London is fairly detrimental. It's a very kind of biased ratio, which you might not think so if you go to London or UK, that everybody's, no, it's not in the corporate world or the professional world. In fact, I feel there's a sense that they get somewhere to the director and level and slightly senior to that, and after that they never make it to the boardroom or the corner office. And this is why we started this program. It's led by Dr. Heather Melville, Chancellor of York University, OBE, and I have joined her program as a contributor to her passionate efforts to do that. And so hopefully, we can change things even in other parts of the world. And we as Indians are taking a positive role. I'm the only Indian on that committee. So I'm very happy to be there, and they take my views quite seriously. So with these few words, I hand it back to you, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you. Initial thoughts from my other co-panelists. Karen?
Thank you, first and foremost, for having this session. I have many of you may have heard of this saying, right? Chinese proverb. Women hold up half the sky. Heard it? Have you all heard it? No. No? So I'm so glad to be saying something you haven't heard, because it's so difficult in today's day and age, right? Typically you end up saying something that you can look at in Google or anybody else, or the tons of events that we keep having over here. All right, another question. How many of you here have either a wife, this is of course for the men, I mean, of course not anymore, these are standard questions, but either a wife or a daughter. So if you're a woman, maybe a daughter. If you're a man, a wife. And I'm just saying this in the traditional context, so please excuse me, I'm not trying to be politically right. So how many of you here, wife, daughter? Come on, seriously? Wife, daughter? Okay, we still have quite a few who don't have wives. All right, good. And quite a few have daughters. Now tell me, in your conversations in your home, if you discovered that your wife or daughter does not get the opportunity she deserves, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's fair? Forget about the business case. We have a very rock solid social case for it. And if businesses don't recognize that social case, because it is people who work in their organizations, even men, the same thing that happens in our homes will happen in our offices. Because when we make it the norm that women do not deserve opportunities, we carry it back and forth between home and office and back. And that is why nothing is going to change. Like Prabir mentioned, 135 years, I'm so glad he's with us on this panel, 135 years it's going to take for gender equality. And the only way to change it is if we say he with she. It is a 50-50%. That's what Prabir again also mentioned. Until we go there, that 50% doesn't become a reality. Business case, social case is not going to make any difference because we will all be nutcases. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aparna, it's over to you now.
Thank you for having me here. I have a slightly contrarian, I will not call it contrarian view, but a little bit of a different view. In the sense that, you know, we all talk about women empowerment. So somebody wants to or needs to empower women. I will ask women, not too many here, but all the same, I'll ask women to take a step back and say, why do you need somebody to empower you? If you take that challenge as far as you are concerned and try and act on that and say that I will empower myself, I will feel powerful enough, and then take the steps required to get out there and make a mark, make a dent, and have myself valued or have my contribution valued, I think half the battle will be won. It's perhaps because we and I'll not speak so much about global women, but I'll speak so much about Indian women. I was lucky to be born in a family where we're just two sisters and my parents, and both my parents had backed us to the hilt. They did not bother that we were growing up girls and we were mixing about and doing things with that not too many girls did. So whether it was cycling, whether it's climbing walls, climbing trees, everything possible. And we were, you know, allowed to do all of that, and even chasing careers, whether it's the armed forces, whether it is the corporate and going up to the top, or then choosing entrepreneurial journeys. But you know, I think somewhere it has to do with the Indian mindset as well, that not too many families, like she rightly asked the question, that one is how do you feel, but second is how are women in our families supported, or how are they behaved with? Because I have a firm belief that the corporate is a reflection of the social society, right? The society that we live in. It's the same people who go to the corporates, it's the same people who behave with colleagues, and it's the same people who mete out the kind of treatment that is given to the women. So if there is somebody who's not being allowed or not being given that kind of an opportunity, it's 50% our responsibility as women, and then balance obviously a whole lot that has to be done with the society. On that note, I will just add a little bit on what Prabir said. I am on the, you know, I mentor students executive students at the London Business School as well. And one such student came to me, and I was mentoring her throughout the journey. And she was an African lady, but doing her internship in London. And oh boy, she had such a tough time. She was working in investment banking, and she had such a tough time even getting to go for client meetings. She was left out. She was not allowed to come along with them because it was a band of boys. The men went for meetings. She was asked to do the background work, and she was aiming for the directorial position. So I'm assuming if that be any kind of a reflection of what the global scenario is, then perhaps we're battling the same battle across the world, right? On that note, I'll hand over the mic to her.
Thank you for having me here. I think this is something that needs a holistic approach. I don't think we can point fingers at X, Y, Z. We need to address this at multiple levels. Being a lawyer, I can say the legislation, all they can do is evolve, have laws. See, there was a point of time when laws needed to be made to give women the right to have equal education. We're not there anymore. We all, that is not seen as an issue anymore, but the laws are not evolving in pace with the societal developments that are happening. We are becoming progressive in so many ways, but until 2017, we had the Maternity Benefit Act provided only for 12 weeks of maternity leave. What is 12 weeks, actually? I'm sure women on stage and who've had, and off stage, who've had children before 2017 know how hard it was, to balance work and personal life. See, in fact, it is. In fact, I would say that there was no balance. We had to make very difficult choices. We had to compromise either on our career or on family life, and I've done that too. So in 2017, fortunately, we had amendments, and fairly good amendments, where there is maternity leave that's now provided for about 26 weeks, of which 8 weeks you're allowed to take before delivery. And then there are further provisions where it says any establishment which has more than 50 employees should have creches, nurseries, so that women can come back into the workforce. This kind of support is required by the workplace, but even though these laws are in place, how many establishments are actually implementing these? We have policies on paper, but if it is actually happening, no, this is not happening. And it also provides that women should be given, when they come back from maternity leave, they have to be given intermittent breaks because their bodies are still recuperating, other than the nursing breaks where they can go to the creche and come. This is also not happening. We're talking about companies growing in size, like 100 people company, 150, 200 people company, but are we looking at how the women who are also contributing to the companies, are they being taken care of? Are they being supported? Rather, they're having to compromise and deal with challenge after challenge. So I believe it's not the laws alone. Laws will have to evolve with times, but there is also a corporate responsibility. At organizational levels, changes have to happen. And not just organizational levels. If the laws are in place, organizations are given equal opportunities, even if that happens. But back home, there is no family support. Women have to miss out on opportunities. Or we have to make very difficult decisions. As a lawyer, I'm seeing that I'm not in the field of family law. I'm not a divorce lawyer. But by known people, we do get referred cases. And I do this as pro bono work. I call the couple, I try to counsel them and see if it is possible to counsel them and reunite them. And I'm seeing increasingly one of the reasons for divorces happening, I'm not saying this is the only reason, but increasingly in this generation, is that women are wanting the divorce because they are not feeling supported at home. And they think marriages are really killing their careers. So we're shifting in a very unhealthy mindset. This is my opinion, and probably I will talk more about it a little later. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you've had a wide variety of views. If I just have to sum up for a bit, I talked about the business case. Two of our friends talked about the social case. Then we have the legal aspect. So these are all various aspects of this issue. So, for example, if you look at, behind what's happening at the social level is our family structure, which is patriarchal. And depending on which part of the country you are in, it is a little more or it is a little less. But having said that, you don't accept it as it is. But Shobna has highlighted some of the frightening aspects, and I want to bring to your notice that in Japan, large percentage of women young women have decided not to marry. And the reason for that is because they'll have to stay at home. Even the laws don't support women the way they support in India, to whatever extent possible. We need more, that's a different matter. But people are simply choosing not to marry. What happens to society? What happens to the future? So there are huge philosophical questions and survival questions around this whole thing. So having said this now, let us move further. And I have a second question. How do we, see, when we are talking about empowering women for women-led growth, fundamentally we are talking about building women leaders. So how do we build these women leaders? How do we support them? How do we empower them? I think I'll go to my panel again and ask for some thoughts. This time, Karen, would you like to start?
So I completely agree with Aparna. I think the first step is the woman. You know, you can only empower a person who's willing to take the first step, right? You can't do something with someone who doesn't want. So I think it starts there. So women need to really look up, look out. Okay, we're so used to looking down all the time. We've been told to always, you know, look, keep your eyes down. That I think that's the first problem. So that I think is women itself. So focusing on women. But as I said in my opening remarks as well, he with she. In fact, the UN has a program called He for She. And I'm against that. Like, because it cannot be that someone else is going to do everything for you and it's going to come on a platter. Nothing in life comes without effort, right? Secondly, if we assume that it is only a man who's going to be able to help a woman to find her place, then we are in trouble again. And that's why it's going to take us 135 years, because for the last 2,000 years, this has not happened. Then how is it going to happen now? Right? Even after 2,000 years, we're still talking about this. So it's not going to change. Has to be he with she. Men understanding equality, understanding that it is shoulder by shoulder only that we can all really thrive together. And women also claiming that space, asking for it, demanding it, like the intern, like the student you're talking to. You have to demand for it. And I think that's really very quickly the starting point, that we believe in the factor of he with she and working together to really empower women for the longer term for all.
Thank you, thank you. Aparna?
So, you know, like we often hear that women are actually the worst enemy that a woman can have, right? So one of the roles of a leader is to build more leaders, isn't it? So if you have, while at the corporate and even now, while I lead my own consulting practice, we've always promoted this thing of women mentoring women leaders. So when you actually know what it is to be a leader at the top or amongst, brushing shoulders with men, and you face the challenges yourself, ideally it should become a lot more easier for the next round of leaders that you're aiming to build, because you will be able to show them what not to do and what to do and how to do it, right? But that doesn't happen as much. There are a lot of programs being run in the corporates where we're talking about mentoring or having buddies for upcoming women leaders. But there's a long way to go. So that is how building leaders will really help, I guess, in the long run.
So what you're suggesting is a technique which is used, which is mentoring.
Mentoring, there's leadership development, women and leaders across different sectors. So when I mentor the global leaders at TCS, we have there, that's one place where I've seen, if not 50, at least a 40-60 kind of a ratio of women leaders, where they're actually involved in projects and they have an equal say, and globally people are open to taking their opinions and kind of incorporating them. So by putting them in different situations, by putting them in different projects, working in tough situations could be some of the ways that we could actually bring up women leaders and bring out their potential amongst others.
Rightly said about giving them more exposure. Yeah. Yes, Prabir, in what way can we develop women leaders?
See, I think I've seen some amount of skepticism about women choosing women as their mentors for whatever reason, and I don't want to get into that. In fact, I find pushback on that. And globally, I find women are more comfortable for men to be their mentors, someone probably more senior in the system or some senior colleague or someone they look up to. I don't know whether this is a norm, but whenever I did mention, listen, why didn't you get a women mentor? They preferred, we call it speed mentoring. What happens is when these girls are identified, they spend time with potential mentors, they spend time with each of them, and each of them gets to select a mentor which they feel comfortable with, and vice versa. Notice that generally they tend to prefer the men, but that's changing. Having said that, that also is changing. So that's number one. Number two, this buddy system is fine, but there are a lot of other issues around that, especially in the UK. There's been a lot of I don't know what the right word is, but some kind of harassment issues which have come up and which have spoiled that whole environment and people exploiting that position. So that's number two. And number three is that I think Karen mentioned it, that it's okay for you guys to say the men should be there, but you're right. Women should lean in and we should give a supporting hand, but at the same time they need to do the heavy pulling, because you don't want any favors, because as soon as you want favors, you're creating an adverse situation against you. So don't ask for favors, make do on merit. If you need a supporting hand or a little platform, that the mentors can do and provide that. I remember in the early days with someone who was supposed to be here on the panel, and I had to go with that lady for meetings, for meeting senior corporate people, because A, she was not confident, B, she was not getting time, C, she was not being taken seriously. So now I don't do that. So it took about a year or two to make that happen. And now she has the confidence and to be able to do that without any support. So that was like an inflection point, that you have to do the handholding and then let them go on. And that gives them the sense of self-esteem and self-worth and confidence so that they don't, they can carry on from there. And the last point I want to make is that, there are some good organizations across the world. Like, my son-in-law works in a large financial organization, and he gets 12 weeks of paternity leave, compulsory. So it's not only the ladies who have to have the maternity benefits, it's also the guys have to do that compulsorily. They have creche, they get nanny money, they get play school stuff. So all that is bundled into a package so that the quality of life and the quality of work-life balance is kind of positive. And I don't want to mention the name of the company, but it's a very large, one of the biggest financial companies in the world. So I was quite surprised to see that there's a positive push. You don't have an option. You have to take those 12 weeks. And you get a lot of leeway from the management that when you come back in as a guy, nobody discriminates against you because you can drop off the radar. And guys are quite vicious, frankly. I don't know how vicious women are, but a guy would push the other guy out of the window if he could. But that's the nature of that's how the whole thing works. So, yeah, it's a tough one, but I think with all of you who have reached this particular stage in life on this platform, going through some of the same lessons and experiences, I know for a fact that 3 or 4 of the ladies here have themselves been, kind of had a tough time to go through to get where they are. And so that's it from my side.
Yeah, Prabir, what I heard you saying, techniques like speed mentoring, like buddy system, hand-holding, and company level benefits, not only maternity, but also paternity. These are the 4 things I think you mentioned. All right.
That's a nice summary.
Yeah, thank you. So, Shobana?
I would like to add to what Prabir mentioned. When we talk about equality, we're always talking about women coming on par with men, but men are not just meant to be in the workforce and earning and being in top leadership positions. There is an emotional side to them. Being with their newborn is as important to them as the other parent. And but paternity leave is something that has been completely ignored. This is a form of inequality which also needs to be addressed. I believe if men have a lot of family time, I mean, I've seen very doting fathers and loving husbands, only if they have sufficient family time. But we are stereotyping men that they're expected to show up to work no matter what chaos is happening at the domestic front, what mess is happening in the family. They're expected to show up punctually for every meeting and not show their vulnerable side. I think we need to be sensitive to men also, because we see a lot of nuclear families these days. And men and women have to be together to support and raise the children together. It has to be joint parenting, it's co-parenting. It's no longer a generation where women are the only ones who are expected to be parenting. In fact, IKEA does not have a policy of maternity leave. They have something called a parental leave, which is so any employee who has a child is allowed to take 6 months off, which is like a phenomenal policy. And they came out in the press and said that through this policy, they want to encourage women to be able to come back into the workforce, because the break that actually happens is during the maternity time. And this also is intended to break outdated notions that women is the child, she bears the child, that she's expected to also rear the child, that notion has to be broken. So IKEA India has made, so we don't have to necessarily wait for laws. Unfortunately, we don't have laws which provides for paternity leave for private sector. It's there in the central government. But if there is a mindset change and we can make a difference where women can come back and have equal opportunities and rise as leaders.
Right. Now it's you, Amrita.
Okay, so let me bring a slightly different perspective. I'll, one as an entrepreneur and the other one from the board position. So, today if we see of the total set of entrepreneurs in India, about 13% are women. There are some, schemes out there, in terms of benefits that are offered by the government for women entrepreneurs. But in reality, a lot of them are really for women who are absolutely starting out, so at who are at very nascent companies and or for micro establishments and so on. But when you're looking at companies, slightly larger companies, or companies intending to be in a particular space, or a particular scale, you don't have those benefits, right? So there you are part of the general pool. And that's where, but at the same time today we are seeing that there are a lot of role models, a fair bit of role models of women entrepreneurs in every sector. If whether you're looking at it, in tech or fintech, or if you're looking at media, there's a whole plethora of young girls and women of all ages who are there in this entire direct-to-consumer revolution that is happening in India. So there are the D2C platforms, the larger ones, who are part of the unicorn set, but then they are powered in turn by a whole lot of mompreneurs and women who are running these businesses out of homes in tier 2, tier 3 cities and providing the products that are going onto these platforms, right? So there is a lot of participation at that level. The question is how do you actually nurture that passion and that interest that women have, and give them the facilities, give them both the mentoring that is needed to scale up these mompreneur businesses, but also the funding that is required to scale those businesses. And that, to some extent, while the policy may exist, in reality, it's very, very difficult to actually access any of these women-centric schemes that are there. We had a whole panel of public sector banks earlier, and there are schemes that public sector banks have, but find me a woman entrepreneur who's actually found, been able to avail any of these schemes, right? So that's really the reality. Now, entrepreneurship, and especially if you're trying to build a company, grow it, scale it, and so on, it's about being all in, right? Regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl, you have to be all in as an entrepreneur. There are, you don't have backups for yourself as an entrepreneur. So I think that's something that women also need to know, that if they are choosing this path, then they need to be present 100% all the time, whenever it's demanded by their customers, by their stakeholders, by their employees, they have to be there. It's a commitment, right? And that that mindset and that shift needs to be there. Now, coming to the board angle, and here again legislation has helped. So India has been one of the few countries where the legislation came almost a decade back, of trying to bring in at least one independent director. Initially it was one director, and then it was made into one independent director on the board. And today, if you see, there are many companies, progressive companies, where we have more than one woman. I'm on multiple boards where larger companies, and we have more than one woman on the board, and that makes for a very open discussion. It makes for a very, different kinds of perspectives. We have women who are in technology, women who are in HR, women who are in automotive engineering, who are there in these boards, and they bring in a very, very diverse perspective. It's not just it needs to be an equal perspective, right? And a competency-led perspective on boards, and that's where I think I see the needle shifting today, that women are there, but they are being chosen for the competencies, the specific skills, or the sector experience that they bring in to bring that diverse opinion at the board level. The other thing that I'm also seeing is that a lot of these companies are in the scheme of promoting women. There's a lot of from the top, that tonality is there, that interest is there to understand, are there any specific programs to bring in women engineers, or to bring in, specific in different functions, have a certain, private sector quota, if you see, not a quota, but a target number of where you want, women participation to happen. So those kinds of conversations are also happening. I have one company where they have said that everybody goes home at 6 p.m. because we don't want the women to feel, that they are the odd person out by leaving on time. So they're actually mandating that everyone leaves on time. If you have work, please dial in from home and complete the work, right? So that makes it a level playing field. So I think there are different ways in which that level playing field is happening, but I would echo what everyone has said, that it begins with us. We need to be a participant and an active participant and a driver of our own journey, and ensure that that's the message that we send to all the girls who are around us.
Thank you. So you have emphasized on entrepreneurs, you've emphasized on boards. I'm going to pick up on the entrepreneurs bit and try to understand how we can support entrepreneurs. So Karen, can you take up that?
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship is my favorite topic. One, because we work on it, and we work on women, social, and green entrepreneurs. I think one of the biggest things that companies can do is to really look at their supply chain. Supply chain diversity is getting a very serious look, luckily, from many corporates now, and they're taking it up very seriously. SAP very recently, in a session where we were talking about the same issue, spoke about actually conducting more than $6.8 trillion business on a platform that is kind of supporting more entrepreneurs. Can you believe that? That is the level of business that can happen. How much more than that do you want, right? And second is not just the amount, because that's one part of obviously the business case, but the second is the kind of loyalty that they get and the innovation that they tend to get. I don't want to make this sound very, stereotypical and say women are more creative, women are more loyal, I mean, those social, soft factors may be there inherently, but I don't think that's the only reason, right? So I think looking at the supply chain and promoting more and more women, okay, creating a more diverse supply chain is a definite big starter. I just want to also digress to one smaller thing which I wanted to talk when you speak about women empowerment and women in taking the first step. I think we need to take far more steps behind to girls. How much are we really empowering girls today to really think big and broad? One simple exercise, if I ask you all today, imagine a nurse. I'm pretty sure all of you thought of a woman, right? Think of a doctor. All of you thought of a man, right? That is what the problem is. Why can't a girl be taught from beginning that be a doctor? Why can't a boy be told that you can be a male nurse, right? So I think a lot of what we are talking about, entrepreneurship, why do we tell women, तुम घर पे ही बैठो और bakery करो, या कुछ tiffin service करो, या कुछ creative work करो, handiwork करो? Why? Why can't we tell a woman, go be an engineer? You are an engineer, even if you're an engineer. I know so many of my engineering alumni, just two more seconds.
Digressing too much.
No, because I'm taking it back to entrepreneurship. I know so many of my alumni engineers who today are sitting home and literally doing tiffin service. So if we have to get entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship, to find their place in the sun, we're going to need a lot more help to make sure that they enter the business supply chains. I think that should be it. Yeah.
Thank you. Amrita on women entrepreneurs only, please. Aparna, sorry.
Okay, so I think the government has done a lot of work to promote women entrepreneurship, right? So they've come up with a number of schemes where they offer SOPs, whether they're offering soft loans, whether they're offering even mentorship of some kind to help women entrepreneurs come to the forefront and experiment with entrepreneurship. So I think that plays a pivotal role. Certain corporates now, if you have, since we're dealing with a lot of financial services people here, I think the big fours have a lot of programs where they talk about financial literacy. They talk about, teaching entrepreneurs about reading balance sheets. I think the biggest drawback or the biggest area where women, while they have managed the home budgets very, very beautifully, when it comes to actually reading balance sheets, sitting down and doing accounting work, there is a little bit of inhibition. There is a little bit of lack of understanding, lack of confidence, you can say. So those are the areas which are actually technical and which are required for women to ace the entrepreneurship game, apart from thinking business or being strategic in nature, is something that the corporates can usually help in terms of building that competence. Developing leadership skills. Now, like Karen was mentioning, there are certain roles which get allocated to women entrepreneurs or women leaders. So I mentor, or rather I'm working with an SME company where it's a family-run business where there are two, both the sons are there and the wife of one of the sons is working as a director as well. And she's a computer engineer, but as luck would have it, the portfolio of HR and admin has been given to her. So she's a director, but she handles the portfolio of HR and admin. Now, why should it be like that? Because she's not capable of handling or taking business decisions, or is she not capable of getting involved in business? What could be the case? But this is something where perhaps when businesses employ coaches like us or some of the mentors like you, that's where we need to sort of push that mantle and say that, you know, she has the potential of doing something much beyond, so why not engage that as well? So very many ways of, working with the women leaders or women entrepreneurs and helping them develop capabilities.
Thank you so much. I think we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to just go a little fast. Prabir, if you have any one or two specific points on this.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the points that you made. That's a universal problem. A is the proportion of women STEM in the world is definitely biased against women. We need to work on that. Number two, the percentage of women entrepreneurs across the world, similar problem. I just met a lot of them yesterday. They have the same problems that many of you have described. So that's nothing new. I think probably I feel that India is a little bit ahead compared to where the rest of the world is. I know what I'm saying is very contrarian. Yesterday, I got into trouble saying something slightly controversial about water and sanitation issues in India. So the trend that I want to flag, however, is there's a recent pushback on issues of DEI. I'm seeing that coming like a truck down the road. So if you feel that we have spent a lot of time bringing, some kind of programs for more inclusivity and diversity, I suspect going forward from 20th January in the next 4 years, I feel large parts of those programs will be pulled back, pushed back, go below the radar, which will probably set you back again. It may have to start from scratch. Obviously, we all know it started from the US, but it'll percolate down right from the US companies, organizations into our parts of the world because we take cues from the West, unfortunately. I'm just not against that. I'm just not for Indians to just take cues from the West. I'm here as an Indian, so if I get pushback from somebody from the West, I just take them on quite frontally. And I tell them quite categorically that just because you guys have done it in a certain way, it's not bound on us to do it. We're going to find our own ways and our solutions. So don't preach to us. So I'm not very popular right now here. So I'm leaving on a flight right now, but probably not be invited back next year. But yeah, so just be careful that the DI thing is going to have a huge blowback. And I'm seeing that already. And some people are very happy about it, to be quite frank. Men and women, including leaders of organizations who say we've done our bit, now we're back to normal, back to business as usual. I'm seeing those mindsets and feelings coming out more openly. Earlier, they used to tick box it and they wanted to look good in boardrooms and with their shareholders. Now they just cast all that to the wind saying, hey, we don't have to follow this anymore. So DEI, CSR, ESG are all going to come up against short shrift in the next few years. And that's the challenge. So we need to stay our ground. I think India can lead by just staying the ground. Don't change anything just because the West has changed it. Don't change something that they bought into India, in DI, ESG, just because they dumped it doesn't mean we dump it. We can improve upon it, qualify upon it, and then have our own organic bespoke solution around it. You don't have to call it DEI or ESG or whatever, but we should not give up those basic values and those programs and those missions. It is time for India to hold firm. Don't let Indian companies and MNC companies and subsidiaries in India to fall back to global HR policies and programs and saying, hey, listen, that budget has been cut. Sorry, we're getting rid of our CDO. We're getting rid of our CSR budget. We're getting rid of our DEI director. It's happening. I mean, a lot of ladies here who are ex-DEI heads, they don't have a job right now. So, so we should hang in there. I think it's time for us to, stand out and just don't buckle in and give up. Because if we do that, I think we'll be really setting back another 20 years. So any help that you all need, we'll be happy to provide and keep talking and then walking that talk. I think that's more important. And so good to have these sessions and have an all-women platform and all-women moderator. And hopefully we have more such sessions in all these programs going forward. But I go to so many programs, I don't see a single women-focused session. And on all the sessions, I don't see a single woman on the panel.
So Prabir,
So-
you have such a good choice here. There are 5 of us. You can invite us anytime. Very welcome. We are here to help you.
Make their presence felt. And I hope the participants over a period of time also become more women focused and more number of delegates come from that side. Otherwise, we just be
you missed it.
blowing into the wind,
I'm
and
going to repeat
that's
it.
not going to get us very fast.
Prabir, I just made a
Yeah.
point. I don't know if you heard it. Prabir?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was saying that in response to what you said a little earlier about not a single woman or say one woman or something on various panels, you have a good choice here. There are so many of
Yeah, I
us.
know.
In the
I
future,
know.
please consider us.
Yeah. But you guys need to now have network effects kick in and identify 5 other women like you so that
Yeah.
you can spawn out and, 5 becomes 25, 25 becomes 125. Just 5 of you can't do much.
No, we need more Prabirs then. Right? Again, it's frozen.
4 people or
Key
5
points
people
he's
who also
missing.
then, in fact, I was not keen to come on the panel. I was keen that we should have a session on this. I was supposed to be part of the session. And I said, listen, I don't want to be on this panel. I'd rather, just introduce the panelists and the moderator and then step out. But it starts there.
No,
So
Prabir,
it's
we'll
good
talk
that-
offline because you have
Yeah.
raised and provoked us, okay?
I'm very good at that.
Sorry, thank you. Shobna, that one point which you wanted to make regarding reimagining how to bring women into the workforce, you have 1 or 2 points there?
Actually, I already spoke about it in bits and pieces already, but
Okay.
there is a point that I want to make while we're talking about this actually requires huge ideological change, what we're trying to achieve. And that's not something that's going to happen overnight and by just having sessions for men or the society in general. I think where it actually starts is in the childhood, at the education level. My daughter went to a Montessori school, and in a Montessori school, the prime focus is learning life skills, which is as important as any other subject, like a math or a science. And they have sessions for the parents, orientation sessions, and they tell us, please do not distinguish. We are teaching your kids how to be independent, which means your boys will come back home and want to cut vegetables. They'll want to clean the dishes. And please do not treat your boys and girls differently, because we are trying to impact them or impart certain values to them so that we grow into a better society. But you can completely undo it with your mindset, saying, beta, ye aapka kaam nahi hai. Please do not do that. So I think, so I believe education system also has a role to play in what we think, and ideology is changing.
Of course, thank you so much. Any one last point? It has to be unique.
Yes, absolutely. So what Prabir spoke about panels, my biggest request of everybody here, I'm sure you attend events, I'm sure you organize events, please, there are enough of women out there, do not have manels. You know what is a manel? A panel with only men. There are enough of amazing women, great speakers, very capable of holding their own in any conversation. Do not have manels. Please.
And by the way, many of us don't need any hand holding. Huh? Okay.
No, that's fair enough, but I'm just saying, just think hard on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I conclude, or you have something else? Yeah, thank you. So, in conclusion, just taking a point from what Shobna said regarding IKEA's policies, trust the Swedes to come up with it, because Sweden is one of the most forward societies and most evolved societies, and that's the society where the role of the caregiver and the homemaker, there are many men who take it, and they're perfectly comfortable to do it at home, okay, to stay at home dads, they have that. So I am not surprised at all by that point which you made, but in conclusion, 2 things. We need women to lean in, as Prabir mentioned nicely. We need government to step in with some rules and regulations. We also need companies to come up with schemes to help women. Okay. And lastly, we've heard many terminologies, but these are the things corporates can do by way of sponsorship, by way of mentoring, by way of providing the right exposure. And above all, to all of you women out there, please network, network, network. Women are so shy. Men are themselves, networking everywhere. I think that's a very important quality for you to imbibe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, may we request our dignitaries to please join us on stage for the felicitation. May I urge the welcome of two of our dignitaries. First up, Ashok K. Sharma, Deputy MD of SBI. Sir, if we could request you to please join us. And Manoj Agrawal from Banking Frontiers to please join us and help us in the felicitation. As Dr. Asha rightly said about the IKEA policy, Dr. Asha, my brother also stays in Netherlands, so they do have a paternal leave for multiple companies. It's quite common in Europe. It's a norm there. So with that, let's give them a bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. What a fantastic, well-curated discussion. And also, can we have a big round of applause for Dr. Asha as well? She's done two fabulous curations of content back-to-back for us. So thank you so much. With that, we'd humbly like to thank Prabir, who joined us live. Prabir, thank you so much. Thank you for taking our valuable time.
You come.
Sorry, sir.
To give.
Oh my God.
He is a very. आपने देखा होगा इनका बहुत अवार्ड लिया है. अभी recently in Delhi she got 4 awards. Yes, give it to her. Yes. Here. Okay. Ankita and Priyanka.
No, I mean, I don't want to break the protocol.
Come. They are my colleagues.
So, of course, Ankita, who heads the strategy bit at N-Cube, she's got her own venture. We have Priyanka in frame, who's the event head at N-Cube Collaborations. I'm so glad Mr. Roy is still around. Mr. Roy, I'm very curious to know which country are you right now in? Zurich?
I'm in Davos in Switzerland.
Okay, Davos in Switzerland. I
That's
hope the
right.
weather is good for you out there, and thank you so much for joining us
Very
live.
nice, thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. So just be on the camera because we're taking a group photograph. So somewhere, maybe a head of yours or maybe the cloud behind might be seen.
There's
All
a
right.
lot of helicopter noise, so just bear with me. These are all of these VIP guests coming in and going out from the World Economic Forum. So
All
I don't
right.
know whether I'm here or not, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we have a big round of applause for all our dignitaries. We have Mr. Prabir Roy online, Amrita. We have Keron Shaiva, Aparna, and Shobna Komal along with Dr. Asha in the frame. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Roy. You may log
Thank
out and
you.
enjoy your trip back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you all. Bye. All the
Thank
best.
you. In better times, Mr. Roy. Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yes, one of the word...